Hi guys, and welcome to Beinkamp Draws. It's been a while since I've said that. I know that this is the first video that I'm uploading in a long time, so I'm really excited about this. And because of that, we're also going to start really slowly. Today I'm going to show you how to draw a gemstone. And believe me guys, when you see this trick, you're not going to believe how easy it actually is. But let's just get straight to it. Okay, the kind of gemstone that I want to create is a very simple, let's call it just like an opal uh, gem. And the reason I say opal is because it's gonna have kind of like an opal shape. So the first thing that we want to do is to make this shape. And we can do it really easy by going into our selection tool and clicking on ellipse. Then you draw out the shape that you want the stone to be in. Let's say that we wanted like a vertical shape like that. We make a new layer and then we pick a color, and I'm thinking we're gonna go with a blue. And I'm not gonna make it too saturated. Remember, if you go all the way here, you can see the saturation line down there. It slides to the right. We're just gonna keep it a little below saturated. I think this is a good color. Maybe a little bit darker. Yeah, I think we got it there. So this is going to be our main shape that we work with. Let's just draw that into the middle so we can see it properly. Now, I'm going to work in layers, of course, so you can see every single step. So I'm going to make a new layer on top of this. I'm going to click it and select clipping mask, which means that it binds to the shape we have underneath, which means that now I can't draw outside of it. It will stay inside like this. Now I'm going to, with my finger, press the screen and hold it, and then comes up my color selection tool. So I'm sure that I'm on that base color. I'm gonna make it slightly lighter, and I think also maybe a little bit more towards the light blue greenish hue. I'm gonna go into my brushes, and just so you guys know, these brushes are custom made brushes that I made myself. So if you want to make exactly what I'm doing here, you can find these brushes on my Etsy store. There's a link in the description. And I'm gonna go with the awesome Smush Paint. If you don't want to use my brushes, I think you can find something similar in painting. Maybe the Spectre. Maybe I would go into airbrush and select a soft brush. The reason I made my own brushes is because the Procreate brushes, they just don't have the same like function that I usually want to work with when I draw digitally. So my go-to is the awesome Smush Paint. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger, and then I'm gonna just stay at the bottom here, like so. I'm not gonna make it too bright. I want to wait with another layer like this, another clipping mask, make it a little bit smaller, and then maybe make it a little lighter down here. Now it's kind of important that we don't take it all the way to the edge, because we want the edge to function like a kind of like a shadow. We make a new layer again, a clipping mask, and this time we're going to add a little bit of highlight to it. Now again, I'm going to slide it a little towards the green again. The reason that I don't just make it lighter and in the same base color is because staying in the same color will make it look a little bit stale. Making the brush smaller now, and now I'm going to add, that was maybe a little too much, a little bit of light at the bottom here. And I kind of want to split it into two. So we see we have a shape here and one here, kind of like, I can just demonstrate, kind of like a V shape, or like a pyramid shape that way, and then another one this way. You see? Okay, now looking at it, I think I'm gonna add just a little bit of this color on the top. Not a lot, just a little tiny bit right there. Okay, so for the next step, we're going to add some highlights on the top of it. So we both have some light that shines from the bottom and from the top. And what I mean with that, I can just quickly demonstrate. We're going to work with two different light sources here. The one that shines up against the bottom here, and one that shines down on the object from here. So we can call this light down here the cast light. And we can call the color or light source up here top light, which would usually also be your sunlight. We're just gonna leave that there. And for the top light, we're gonna use kind of like a white, maybe a little bit of yellow towards the green color. And this is gonna be very, very subtle, just like the top there. And then again, just like I showed you guys before, two shapes. And then we're just gonna zoom out to see how that looks. That looks fine. And then we are going to the next layer and create a clipping mask. And for this, we're gonna go back towards the blue, make it a little lighter. And then we're gonna make kind of like an overlight on our shape there. And we're just gonna let the brush do the work and drag it down. Very, very subtle movements. We're also gonna do that at the bottom here. Just a little more, not too much. Now, another layer. This is going to be kind of like a texture layer, if you may. And for that, I need a brush with a little more texture to it. I have one here called watercolor, which I usually use for watercoloring, but it also has, as you can see here, some texture in it. And I'm going to just gently like dub it over. I don't know if you guys can see, it creates like some textures there, which makes it look a little bit more worn and believable. I'm gonna add a little bit to the side here so it kind of looks like there has been some wear to it. Maybe some over there. We can use it to create some more highlights over here. Like so. Okay. Then make another layer and clipping mask. I'm gonna go back to my awesome paintbrush. Then I'm going to select the base color, maybe tint it a little over towards the purple and making it darker. And then I'm gonna go around the edges like so. And what I'm doing now is just adding a little bit more shape to my opal. It gives it a little more like 3D texture. Now when we zoom out, we can kind of see that it's starting to really take some shape. Now I think zooming out and looking at it, I want to go back to this layer with my highlights. And I just want to make it a little bit more extravagant. I want it to pop just a little more. Now I can do this by just staying on the same layer, just adding a little more to it, but what I think would be better here is over that layer, I make a blend mode called overlay. And I just very gently put some extra light. I can even go up here and do that as well. And what that does, that overlay mode, is it saturates the color underneath it a little bit more. And it just makes it more vibrant and it looks really cool. Now for the final jazz. At the top here, I'm not too sure if I want to make this an overlay or maybe an add, but let's just start with overlay. I'm gonna go down to the brush I have called Snow Freckle Spots. If you want to find something similar to this in the Procreate brushes, I'm not too sure that maybe in Elements, yeah, you have something called Driven Snow. It's very similar. You can use that if you don't want to use these brushes. This has a little bit more texture to it. I added some transparency and it behaves a little bit different, but it's almost the same. Now I'm just gonna very gently put some of these specks into my opal here, and you can just kind of see what it does. It gives it a little bit extra. And you can play around with sizes on this one just to make it varied. Now it's an overlay, which means that it saturates everything that is underneath it, but I'm just gonna try and see what happens in add. Then it becomes really vibrant. And that looks kind of cool as well, but I kind of like the overlay, that it's a bit more subtle. Now, what you can do when you have this is you can maybe add some shadow underneath it, but before that stage, I want to do a little trick which is taking all of these, grouping them together, duplicating them, and I'm just going to flatten that whole image. So now it's just one graphic. Then I'm going to go into saturation. And it's important when you do this that you pick layer. And I'm just going to saturate it a little bit more. In here you can also play around with hue, so if you want it in a different color. Oh, actually that's really nice. Kind of like this one. Yeah, let's go with that. Then we can also go into curves and we can play around with gamma a little bit. So I can maybe give it more contrast. Ooh, that looks nice. Like so. Now seeing it in another view helps you to kind of realize if you've done any mistakes or if there's anything you want to do different. And I can kind of tell that I want a little bit more light in the bottom of the stone. So I'm just gonna make a clipping mask over this and put it to overlay. I think I'm gonna stay in something light because I want to add light to it. Then I'm gonna pick an airbrush and I'm just gonna lighten it up from below like this. Maybe that was a bit too much. You can see what happens when you go through the different modes here. Overlay is definitely the right choice. Just gives it a little bit more light, and I think think it just adds a bit to the shape. I'm also gonna give it a little more over here. I can even go in and make it a little darker on the top there. Okay, so now that we have our little opal gem, we're gonna make a little shade for it. And the easiest way to do that is just to duplicate your base layer, because we want to use the same shape as the base layer. We're gonna go up into hue and saturation, and we're gonna take the brightness way down. That makes the color just totally dense, which is what we want. And then when we move it from underneath, we have this opal shape. Now that is obviously way too dense on its sides, like it's too sharp in a sense. So we're gonna go into Gaussian blur, and we're gonna slide that, and now you can see we have a blurred outline. It's still a little too dark, so we're just gonna turn it down a tiny bit. And from here we can kind of play around with, like, if we say that the light from top hits from the top there, we put it a little to the right, like so. We can even try something which, it was just an idea that I had. I don't know if it's going to work, but I suppose this little gemstone is a little bit see-through, so I'm thinking that if we have the top light here shining through it, we might even have something hitting our shade. So I'm going to try and use an airbrush here. I'm gonna pick some of the color that comes through, and I'm going to very gently make a little bit of the light coming through. That actually works. I'm gonna go into liquify and just try and see if I can shape it a little bit. Maybe it's a little too green, or is it just too bright? Let's try and alpha lock it with our 2 fingers. If we slide right, we alpha lock it, or we can press it and press alpha lock. Either way you want. Let's try and make it a bit more blue. Actually, I feel like that works. But you see, guys, super easy. Our steps here, that's not even that many. It's mostly a question of color and light. Merging it, playing around with the color. We can take the whole thing now. We can group it like we did before and duplicate it. Put our shape up here, flatten it, and then we can go in and just play around with the hue. And we can make a ton of different really cool gemstones. Now, another trick, I'm just gonna quickly show it to you guys. If you want some kind of symbol inside the stone and it looks like it's coming from the inside, you can make another layer, and let's say that I am going to write, what am I going to write? I can make a rune. I have no idea what kind of rune I'm making. I'm just making stuff up now. Like an R rune. Now it just looks like I've drawn that on top of the stone, which could be cool as well. But if I want it to look like it comes from the inside, I can just turn down the opacity a little bit, like this. And I can make a tiny highlight on top of it. We can just use this, but a little bit more blue. Going to add. I can just add some light over it. And then it looks like it comes from the inside. I can even make it glow by duplicating it and taking the layer underneath and go to Gaussian blur. blur that out a little and put that into add. You can see here now it glows. So that's a really nice trick. If this is something you figure out you want to do before you have merged all the layers, you could benefit from, let's go back to our layers down here, from putting in the symbol underneath all of these glows that you have here. Be on top of that, so that you have it there. Now all of the spots and textures that you did are over the letter. But it works fine like this. Now, if you want the symbol to be on top, you could also make it fully visible like that. And if you want it to look like it's kind of been engraved into the stone, you can duplicate the layer again, and underneath it, you take this and you make it all the way black. Now you take this and you push it a little bit upward and to the side, and then it kind of looks it's been engraved into the gemstone. You can even on top of this layer make it look like it's popping out a bit more by putting a little bit of highlight on the side here. Just gonna do it quickly so you guys can see. You could spend a lot of time like making these little highlights look even more perfect than it does now. But anyways, that was my tutorial on how to make an opal gemstone. And if you like this video, then please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Maybe there will be even more videos like this coming up. I really hope so. And for those of you who are old subscribers who still follows me even though I haven't been the most active, thank you so much for the support. I truly appreciate it. And remember, if you want to support me even further, you can do so by buying and downloading my brushes. They cost a very, let's say, artist-friendly amount of money. It's just a way of supporting me. And if you don't want to do that, then just play around with the brushes that Procreate already has. I think I have uploaded a video here on my channel that talks about how to modify brushes. So if you want to give that a go yourself, you can always check that video out. And yeah, I hope you guys have a lovely day and thanks for watching. Bye!